I'd like to thank all of those present, and I'd like to welcome you. We are going to have a welcome on the part of our Vice-Chancellor, and I'd like to thank all of those who are participating in this day and the various friends who come from various countries, to our Italian friends as well, and the many who have followed right from the beginning, or almost from the beginning, AlmaLaurea's development. This is the 16th AlmaLaurea survey on employment of graduates, and it is something that we celebrate every year, and every year we have new and significant pieces of information that come out from this survey. But this will be the subject of the presentation of Professor Andrea Camelli. I would in fact stop here, were it not for certain things I have to do. First of all, to communicate to you that Dr. Marra, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister, has sent a message on behalf of the President of the Republic, President Napolitano, and we must thank him for that. Also, we have a presentation on the part of the Minister for Employment and Opportunities. And I'd like to read this to you because apart from the nice things he has to say, he apologizes for his absence. And I'd like to read the most significant part of the presentation letter. I'd like, he says, to express my appreciation for your initiative, which is a very important contribution to the understanding of a aspect of the development of our country, and which is very much linked to the development of our human resources, and recalls the need for greater commitment on this front. Perhaps he should have said also commitment on the part of the government in this, but perhaps we will pass over this. This especially because of the shortage of graduates and highly qualified people in companies. But anyway, we're very thankful to the Minister for his letter. And we're also very thankful and grateful for a letter which has come from the President of Italy, Oscar Farinetti. He was invited, and he explains in his letter that he is unfortunately otherwise engaged, but he expresses his interest for this initiative and hopes to be with us on another occasion. So with this, I have outlined the letters of those who were invited but haven't been able to come here. I'd like to thank the Vice-Chancellor who's going to take the floor, and I'd also like to welcome the Right Honourable Galletti, the Ministry for the Environment, and he will say a few words before we hear from the report of Andrea Camelli. Vice-Chancellor, the floor to you. Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to welcome all the guests here to this very authoritative meeting. In the 5 minutes that I have, I really don't have time to say hello to everybody. Here we have representatives of the University of Morocco, Tunisia, Armenia, Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, and representatives also of the World Bank that I greet with great pleasure. We met also recently in Amman. We have representative of the Union for the Mediterranean, and again, I dip in here and there at the risk of forgetting important personages. I'd like to welcome and thank Romano Prodi, former Prime Minister, the representative of the province, Beatrice Draghetti, and we also have the representative of the ministry. I'd like to welcome the President of CUNE, Andrea Lenzi. Again, let me just thank all the vice-chancellors from other universities in Italy, and also the representative of Confindustria, the Manufacturers Association. There are many reasons today to consider the fact that AlmaLaurea, this consortium of 64 universities, and a great pity that some parts of the north have not yet joined this consortium, but we're impenitent optimists, and we hope that other universities will become members of AlmaLaurea. But now we have 64 universities because AlmaLaurea is now 20 years old. And those people who wanted and to bring this about, my predecessor, Fabio Roversi Monaco, must be thanked, and also, as must be thanked, Andrea Camelli, who got the AlmaLaurea on its feet. And after 20 years, I think this is a youth, if you like, who now has the keys to the house and can go out by themselves. And this is a great tool, in fact, that has been developed. And I think that many ministries would do well to use it more and better than they have done thus far, and set aside untoward jealousies that have stopped them doing so. There are several reasons to think about this more deeply. Andrea Camelli will say this in his presentation, and given the reasons for this and how much this country invests less than its European neighbors and 1/3 less than what is done in America in this area. And also we should realize that in the university only is frequented by 30% of its youth. And I really don't understand when we are told that in Italy we have too many graduates. I think that almost it's blasphemy to say that. I think this is the first national tragedy that we have. That is that only 30% of our country, in fact, goes to university. And that means with the Article 34 of our Constitution, we, in fact, are only honoring this at halfway and not fully. This article, in fact, calls to the right to study. In fact, less money was allocated to scholarships and grants. And in fact, Emilia-Romagna was able to cut things a little less for various bureaucratic reasons, thank goodness. If you like, we are looking at things from a slightly village pump point of view, but when we talk about AlmaLaurea, of course, we do symbolize something more than just a local organization. We have, in fact, come from a fair of counseling and guidance to the university. And this was recently concluded, and the intent was to encourage all young Italians to go to university. We're not happy with just adequate success. We had and saw many young people flock to the fair and eager to look at what university they could go to find the right guidance, to shape their future. And that was very enthusiastic. But again, we saw people, young people, looking at and being interviewed by companies in Emilia-Romagna and throughout Italy, and where our graduates went to look at their CV. And there the atmosphere was much less enthusiastic. These companies, in fact, were there, and the graduates went to them to try and find a job. And as I say, things were much less rosy than the enthusiasm of the people about to go to university. But I think this is what we, as people from the university, must look to, and also accept this enthusiastic side and the tragedy, the side that is tragic. Because, in fact, we don't have a situation in which people really appreciate graduates and learning. And we have this unemployment, which is 13% in Italy, and which is from 10 to 13%, 14% in the rest of Europe. And here, the percentage of unemployed graduates is very high. And this is something we have to look at square in the face. We have had to rectify our curricula also, which was more geared to supply rather than to the actual demand coming from the entrepreneurial world. And I think that our reforms have been at least partly successful, but we can't, in fact, do the job of the politicians. And this is the big gap and deficit. Perhaps if the universities had really more autonomy, we could do more. But anyway, I'm not here just to complain. As the philosopher said, we mustn't cry or laugh, but we must understand, and we must understand the extent to which we are responsible for our country and do things together, not against the political field, but do this together. So today we have AlmaLaurea, which looks at this wide spectrum, that looks at the social conditions of young people going to universities, of the situation of graduates, how things roll out. And also we are looking and have expanded to the Eastern Mediterranean countries. This is something that we want to further enhance and strengthen. And with this, I'd like to wish you all a very successful meeting, and also hope that we can do very good work in the future, because today we have to band together. We have to be bound together like mountain climbers. Either we go up together or we fall together, because we in fact represent and must help the best part of our country, in fact our young people. The mayors of the cities and also Europe knows this. We must help, and we must try as much as possible to do our utmost to fulfill this task we have of helping young people with all the different jobs and responsibilities have. And in the presence of the ministries, in the local authorities, in the presence of all the organizations that are represented here, and also thanks to this European opening up to the European and non-European countries, I think that we all need to pull together and have this resolve to work. Thank you. I'd like to thank our Vice-Chancellor, Ivano Dionigi. I'd like to thank Beatrice Draghetti and call her. She is a representative of the province of Bologna. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everybody. I, too, would like to thank you for this opportunity that we have every now and again to reflect on the future of young people, which, of course, represent the future of our country. And I say this as the representative of an institution which over the years has and continues to have specific tasks with regard to right to study and helping young people to find their place in the entrepreneurial world. We also need high-level meetings like this to be able to think about what prospects are in this field. Very briefly, two aspects. I'm very pleased about the title of today's meeting, Entrepreneurship and Innovation, the Role of Graduates. I think this is very apt because today the virtual synergy that the world of research produces and what the world of factories produce is what we should be looking at more closely today. And what better way of doing this than through young graduates, new graduates. They bring innovation, skills, enthusiasm, transformation, and, as I say, a new vision. But I think this sort of cross-cultural contamination, as it were, must be developed. And this area of Emilia and Romagna, which is very entrepreneurial and which has not been laid low by the crisis, I think that this area has shown us a great deal. But I think that we must take on this entrepreneurial style, this style of cooperation that we see in this region, even more with the crisis, the cooperation between workers and technical people, the university and entrepreneurs, and the university and the various people outside of the university and the political world. The policies that we are developing for our area in helping young people, young men and women, whose graduate pathways we are looking at, I think that what we need in this approach today is to further make the availability of the university even greater, because with the crisis, in fact, what is being cast into doubt and into question is this ability and right to study. And in fact, we have seen in recent data that this is the case, and we have seen that the difference and the gap in wages between men and women, in fact, is still there. And this means that we, for example, have to work on a common front to develop this. And we, in fact, should not let the crisis get in our way in this. So I'd like to thank all the organizers, and I'd like to thank Andrea Camelli, the director of AlmaLaurea, for what they have done. And I'd like to thank them for developing this seminar today.